My name is Kelly, and I've had 4 miscarriages so far. Having gone through 4, this is not something that I would wish upon anyone. I wish we could completely solve this problem so that nobody else has to experience this. But the sad truth is that I know it's going to continue to happen for other women. So I'd like to share what I've learned so that maybe it'll make it a little tiny bit easier for somebody else in the future. So the number one thing that I have learned, and it has taken me 4 to get to this point where I have learned this, and that is that it is not your fault. I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to say it slowly. It is not your fault. Period. This is a big one, really big. And at first, after maybe the first or second, I could say that it was not my fault. Like, it was the kind of thing where, like, I know logically it's not my fault. I know logically that I didn't kill my baby. But there was still something in my brain that didn't understand it. There was still, like, maybe it was in my heart, but there was something that still held on to this belief that I was somehow at fault. I was somehow, like, maybe it wasn't me, like my conscious self, but maybe it was my body. And because I own my body, I am my body, then it's my fault. And that is not the case. Even if it is my body that's doing it, that is not my fault. Even if it's my body that's killing the baby, and even though I am, I am the only person that can control my body, it is my body and no one else's, but that still doesn't mean that it's my fault. And so not only is it not your fault, but this does not affect your value as a person or your worth as a person. It also has nothing to do with what you deserve or don't deserve. And one of the ways that this manifests itself when I was going through my miscarriages is that I would see women that had babies or that were having babies, women that were pregnant, women that were having healthy babies. And I had this sense of, what did I do to deserve this? Like, to deserve these multiple losses? What did these women do so that they deserved having healthy, happy, alive babies? What, like, I inside of myself, I would compare and contrast me as a woman versus these other women. There is absolutely zero to do with deserving or worth or value when it comes to having healthy babies. Zero. It doesn't matter. Like, there is not one person that is more worthy of a baby than another person. That's not how it works. If a person has a baby or not, it is dumb luck. That's it. There are drug heads, there are kids that are not prepared for babies. There are people that, I think we would objectively say are perhaps not prepared to have babies, that are having babies every single day. And they have healthy babies. So having a healthy, alive baby has nothing to do with what anybody deserves. So if you did not have a baby, if your baby died, it is not your fault. It is not that you deserved it. It is not that you didn't deserve it. It's not that your worth is any less or your value is any less. It was just dumb luck, period. The second thing that I've learned after going through 4 miscarriages is that the medical field is woefully ignorant and possibly bordering on incompetent when it comes to recurrent pregnancy loss. Most doctors that you see, most OBGYNs that you see, just don't know how to handle recurrent miscarriages. And I'm not fully blaming them. I'm not ready to, to tar and feather them just yet. I think that they just weren't trained for it. I think that the vast majority of pregnancies are healthy. And that's what they're trained for. They are trained for delivering healthy babies, and they do a good job at it. Most of them. But they are not trained for how to handle a woman that has miscarriage after miscarriage after miscarriage. It's just not in their wheelhouse. So you're going to find a lot of, or at least I did, a lot of, oh, it's just bad luck. Oh, just keep trying. A lot of unhelpful advice. even from doctors who you would expect to be experts on this. They just don't know, honestly. So most doctors will tell you that if you had a miscarriage, that it was most likely a chromosome issue, which is just bad luck, where it just so happens that the sperm and the egg came together and something wasn't right with the chromosomes. Now, if you've only had one miscarriage, this may be true. However, if you have had 2 or more miscarriages, the chances of it being a chromosome issue are as low as 7% according to some of the latest research. And I will put the research down below. So most of the doctors that I've come in contact with, and I've seen several, I've changed doctors several times after not being happy with what I was told. And so pretty much every OBGYN that I have talked to in my area just says it's bad luck. And they just want you to maybe you try some vitamins, maybe you try some progesterone, which has not been proven at all. Maybe you try some aspirin. They kind of try a few little things, but they don't really do very much. And they don't seem to understand miscarriages. They kind of seem to think that it's all like, oh, it's just unknown. It's this big unknown science area that we don't know anything about. But the truth is that we know stuff. There is research being done. It's not a ton of research, but research is being done by some doctors. And there is information out there if these doctors knew where to look. Now, the unfortunate problem is that you're probably not going to just bump into a doctor that happens to be great at dealing with recurrent miscarriages. You're probably going to have to go find somebody, and you're probably going to have to do some research of your own. It is something that it requires us to do some of the legwork for the doctors at this point in time. And I really hope that in the future, that's not the case. I hope in the future, doctors will help women so that we don't have to take this into our hands so much. But right now, the truth is that you're probably going to have to do a lot of the research yourself, and you're probably going to have to either bring research to your doctor or go out and search for another doctor. And that brings me to my third thing that I have learned after going through 4 miscarriages. And that is that you are going to need help. And I mean that in a really big sense. You're going to need help. You're going to need mental health, most likely. You might need therapy. I've gone to therapy. There's nothing wrong with it. You might need antidepressants. I was on antidepressants for quite a while after my 4th one, and honestly, while I was on them, I was like, man, why didn't I do this sooner? I really should have done this after maybe the 2nd, because I tortured myself for quite a while. And you might need help like with a support group. If your area has a support group for maybe miscarriages, maybe for infertility, maybe for, like some will have a pregnancy and infant loss group, maybe you should try that. You're also going to need support just from your family or friends or community. You're going to need some kind of support from somewheres. And if you're not getting that from your friends or your family, if you're not getting it from your spouse or your partner, then you might have to go out and search for that help. But you need it. I promise you need it. And there's nothing wrong with needing it. And if you can't find something local, then go on the internet. There is a really great subreddit. There's the subreddit called Miscarriage, and then there's another one called TCC After Loss. Those are great places that I look at every single day, and it has really helped me. There are Facebook groups for recurrent miscarriage, or for if you get a particular diagnosis along the way, then there are groups for each of the different diagnoses. And those are really great places because you might not have a friend. Like, even if you have a lot of friends, you might not have a friend that is going through what you're going through or has gone through what you're going through. It's a one, for recurrent miscarriages, it is 1 in 100. So even if you have 100 friends, which I consider to be a lot of friends, you might be the only person in that whole group that has ever experienced this. So you might need to find something outside of your friend, and you're probably going to need help from a medical professional. You're going to need a doctor that can help you on this journey. Either find a doctor locally that is willing to work with you. They're willing to read some research, perhaps outside of what they learned in medical school. Maybe you can bring them some research and they're willing to look at it, and they're willing to run the tests that the latest research is suggesting should be run. and they're willing to try treatment protocols that perhaps they haven't ever tried before, but they're willing to look at the research and try a new treatment protocol. So if you can find a doctor that is willing to do that, that is great. But you can't always. You might not be able to, and that's where I was. I couldn't really find a doctor that was in line with what I needed and all the latest research. So what I did was I went out and I got a reproductive immunologist from the Beer Center. There are 3 reproductive immunologists currently, or at least 3 that are sort of like the standard 3 in the United States, and I think it's pretty much the world too. I think that people from other countries use these 3 doctors, and that would be the Beer Center, Dr. Braverman, who sadly just passed away this year, but he has somebody taking over for him, and Dr. Kwak-Kim, oh gosh, people call her Dr. KK, and I apologize that I butchered her name, but and she was a student of Dr. Beer. So she follows a very similar sort of protocol as Dr. Beer. So you might need to seek out the help of one of these reproductive immunologists. That might be what you need. But the point is that you're probably going to need more help than just the average person that can get pregnant and have a baby. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry that that's the case. It sucks that we can't just, have a baby the normal way. This is kind of how it is for us. It's just not easy. We have to pay extra money to see these doctors. We have to pay extra money to get extra tests. We have to pay extra money to probably have expensive treatments just to have a baby. And I'm sorry, none of us deserve this. It's a shit straw that we all drew, and I'm sorry. But this is where we are. If you have had 2 or more miscarriages, and if you want to have a baby, this is probably what you're going to have to do. You're probably going to have to work a little bit harder and pay more money, go a little bit further than the average person does in order to have a baby. But the important thing is that you can have a baby. I don't want you to lose hope. It can happen. I have seen it happen for so many other people. It hasn't happened for me yet, but I have hope. And I want anybody else watching to have hope as well. Because there are some miracle stories of people that have had way more miscarriages than me, people that have had 20 plus miscarriages, and then once they get the help of a specialized doctor, they go on to have healthy babies. So, I guess maybe my last thing is that there is hope. Even though it sucks, and even though it's going to be harder for you, there is still hope. You can have a baby. So until next time, I wish you good luck in your journey wherever it may take you.